Okay, so it's my third day making the miniatures. Still at my boyfriend's house, making the most of his oven because I haven't got an oven. The first figure is ready to go in the oven. I'm just going to tilt the camera down so you can see. So there it is on an oven-proof plate, ready to be baked. This is just the first bake. And after I've baked it, I'm going to add little bits more on the clay, such as the neck. I might round the hands out. I might even sand some things off with a nail file. But with such tiny things, you sometimes have to bake them in stages. You can hear rustling is my ever-present friend, the cat, who's chomping down on a cardboard box in the corner. But first, before I bake this, I'm going to, because I haven't used this oven before, and each oven is slightly different, I'm just doing a little test piece of scrap fimo. I made it pretty fine because finer parts of the fimo clay bake more quickly and tend to discolour if the temperature's too hot. So these fine little bits will go brown or possibly black if the temperature's really wrong. So I'm just going to put this test bit in the oven, and you bake fimo at 110 degrees C or 230 degrees Fahrenheit. So fingers crossed, and so I've just put the test piece of clay in the oven, and I have to wait 30 minutes to see how that turns out. So I'm going to start work again on the second figure, which is the toddler, not the little girl, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing. I'm just making the second hand, just the same way I made the first one. Just blending where I've joined the little stick fingers onto the back of the hand, creating a little bowl in the palm of the hand. Then making a little wrist. I found that the more I fiddle and fuss with things, often the worse they get, so I try nowadays, or I tried when I was making miniatures towards the end of the long spell I had making them some years ago, that I should just take the first or second attempt at something and leave it at that. So I'm just adapting a little kind of slug shape, which is the thumb, and smoothing it in. It's important to have nice, soft, warm clay to do such fine things, although if it's too soft, it can become a little bit difficult to control, and the fingers, for instance, can start to sag and bend where you don't want them to. So, just trying to make the tips a little bit rounder, and then I'll put the little thumb there. Now the difficult thing about hands, as feet, everything run in pairs, is getting them the same. I'm pretty pleased with the size, more or less. I think I just need to elongate the fingers and truncate the hand part, if that makes sense. So that is what I will do now, and then create another little wrist, lop a bit off the end because that's too much, pop a toothpick in, which these toothpicks make the holes, of course, for the wire that I'm going to use to joint the figure later. I think those fingers need to be slightly closer together, so I'll do my best to make them snuggle up a bit together and flatten the top of the palm a bit more and smooth out this bit, marrow the wrist, roll it again, pop it side by side, I think that's okay. Okay, so the hands are done, the feet are done, as you saw last night, and I rolled out a ball for the head. I'm just going to check that the size of that head is correct, more or less in proportion to the hands and the feet. Though, as you know from the first head I made, the shape and size of the head changes quite a bit as I go along. Now, I'm not doing this strictly anatomically because I want the little toddler to be very, very cute. So I'm doing the head a little bit bigger than it is on most young children and babies. Although, of course, as you know, babies and toddlers' heads are larger in proportion to their bodies than adults. I'm just thinking, in fact, that head is a little bit small if anything. Just put it by the feet again. Just trying to imagine the body, hands, feet. Yep, I think it needs a bit more clay. Mustn't forget to keep an eye on the time to take my test piece of thymo out of the oven. No, a tiny bit more again. Right. And because this toddler is really we want to make her as cute as possible. So her head is going to be very much the shape of a baby's head, really. So there is a kind of large forehead, usually, large forehead, and then 2 eye sockets, some big cheeks, and practically no chin. Just blend that in a little bit. I'm going to put the things I have made back in the box because I don't want to squash them accidentally, so just blend that in a little bit. Make the eye sockets blend the indentations into the indentations over the nose, the cheeks into the sides of the face. Again, nice soft clay is a prerequisite for this. And then let's add a little nose just to help us see something, just give us some kind of indication of, you want a tiny button nose. Right, those cheeks are a tiny bit too fat, so I'm just going to smooth them down. The nose is a bit too long, so I'm going to push it up. And let's add a little chin. Some of the chin becomes part of the lips. Okay, now as you can see in profile, that's beginning to look like a little chubby baby. So in fact, I find working in profile really helpful in the early stages. It can be a bit off-putting to just look at the thing straight on because it doesn't look much like a person to begin with. So is that chin? Yeah, that's a really cute chin actually, but it could be smaller. So I'll just blend it a tiny bit more. Even better. Now we just blend the cheek into the nose a little bit, and the nose in this side, and make some nostrils. Always a really easy, satisfying thing to make the little nostrils. Blend this lip in a little bit. Look at the side again. Okay, it's a very snub nose. I think I might make it a little bit smaller, and if I can, a little bit less snub. I've actually succeeded in making it more snub, but I can sort that out. Scooch it up a little bit. Okay, smooth out the bridge. Okay, now the top lip. Top lip, okay. I want this little toddler to look a bit melancholy, wistful, thoughtful. But I don't know if she'll turn out like that because each figure pretty much has a mind of its own, or the face does anyway. And so you just have to go along with that. A bit like life in general, really. Okay, now I'm going to push that lip up a little bit. Just show you the profile again. From that side, from this side, and you can see straight on, it's not looking too good. But from the side it's okay. So I push that lip up a little bit and out a little bit. Great, that's great. And now I just have to add a separate bit of clay. For the lower lip. However a model turns out, it's never exactly as I wanted it. But sometimes it turns out, well, better in its own way. So again, you just have to go with whatever emerges. Okay. Isn't it great? That's good from the side. That needs to go in a bit at the temples. And that forehead needs to be less severe and come up a little bit. At least I think it does. And the bridge of the nose has to go in a bit. Good. The chin, smooth this cheek out. And something pointy. Okay. This has to come in. Blend this bridge of the nose in a little bit more so it's smoother. This crease down here. Little children have often got kind of heavy, is it smile lines? Cheek lines. The folds run down the side of the mouth and the nose. Actually, like I have. I never lost my chubby cheeks. So this profile is looking good from this side. Can't quite see in the light this side. Yeah, it's okay that side. So I'll look at it straight on now and I can instantly, sorry, there's the profile one side and the profile the other side. When I look at it straight on, I can instantly see that the eye sockets need changing shape a little bit, and this fold here needs smoothing into the side of the nose, and the chin and the cheeks need, and the head is generally too big, but as you know from the first head, it doesn't really matter about what's happening at the back or the sides too much. Yeah, it's just the face. So now I think this mouth is going down a little bit too much, so I'm gonna bring it up and blend that corner in a little bit, and just keep an eye on the time. 10 more minutes and we'll see how that first piece of Fimo's done. And so blend in, making the nose a little bit prettier. Right. Blend in the fold of the cheek into the chin a little bit more. Okay. Change the jawline a little bit. Much better, instantly better. Sometimes you make one move, change one thing, and it's completely right and helps everything look suddenly so much better. So it's nice when that happens. So now, looking better again. And keep smoothing this little bit here. I think it's almost time to add some oil to help the smoothing out. And this little bit of lip has got to come up a bit. And I think the nose can even be a tiny bit smaller actually. Then make the nostrils again. So it looks like the temperature was right. This little, it's a bit hot. This little test piece is fine. Hear that? So it's hardish. Actually, still quite soft while it's hot, but it will get harder. And there's no discoloration. So experiment successful. I'm now going to put into the oven the first pieces of the first figure, and I'm just checking there's no glaring mistakes. I mean, I could keep working on this forever actually, but the trouble is you risk spoiling it. So I can always add and file away. So I'm going to pop this in for 30 minutes. I'll be back. So I'm just going to take a look at the time. It's 10:13. So say 10:15, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So just before 11:15, I will take it out. Now on with the second figure, and the face is coming on. I've added a little eye and eyebrow because I wanted her to be a bit wistful, and I'm going to do the same on the other side. So I just roll a little ball up, halve it, so you have like a kind of half orange shape, then squidge it into the hole, and then kind of blend the top of the eyelid into the skull, bring the eyelid down a little bit, and make an eye out of it. Need to put a little bit inside the eyelid to resemble an eye, and pat it down so it kind of looks the same as the other one. When you're doing faces, just keep comparing each side, looking at things from every angle. Now I can see that side, the bridge of the nose needs to be pushed in a bit, and in fact that eye is much further from the nose, which is not great, so I'm going to try and alter the shape a bit and bring it in a little bit. Okay, so that's slightly better. Now I have to bring the outside down and the top down a little bit to make it more the same shape. I can possibly bring that up a bit. Now make an eyebrow, a sloping eyebrow to match the other one. Blend it in. And blend this in here. Okay. Right, now looking down from above, I can see that this needs to be squeezed in. That needs to be flattened a bit. That needs to be widened if possible. It's always hard adding things, it's easier taking them away. So, although this is nowhere near as difficult as sculpting stone or something like that, because with clay you can add, it's still always better not to have to do it. So before you take something away, make sure you're sure about it. Right, now this still needs to go in, down, elongate that eye, bring that down, smooth this forehead a bit, bridge of the nose still needs blending together. The cheeks actually need to be filled in a bit now because my fingers have pushed them push the bottom parts in through the top, the back of the head. Some needs to be taken off that. Right. So always smooth in the direction you want to go. So because I want the eyebrows to be raised upwards in little points, I'm smoothing that way. Smooth there. Great. So now, as you can see, we need to add a few more, some volume in some key places, because in making the face as it looks from the front, we've lost a bit of the nice profile, but it's necessary to work from the front a bit at this stage. Just delineating the nostrils a little bit more. This eye needs to be a little bit more deep set. So push that in. Push it in, push it in, push it in. Okay. Define the eyelid a little bit more. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to do something rather drastic here. I'm going to make the nose smaller and higher. And instantly that's actually better. So I'm glad even though it meant scrapping my old nose, I'm glad I did it. Just round off the new one. And instantly better. Yeah, great. So now she's got a much babier face with the tiniest little snub nose, just making the tip smaller. And the top lip now, unless we want her to be slightly ugly, which I don't really, needs to come up a bit more. So, hang on, let me just make this nose better from the side. Make that a bit sharper, that angle there. Okay. Now, this is going to be tricky. I think I need a razor blade for this. But I didn't bring the razor blades down, so I'm going to just use this toothpick to push this up. Who knows, it might work well. Okay, push this up a bit that side, push it up a bit this side. Okay, take that in like that, and then she looks like she's smiling now, and she looks kind of delightful. So now I'm debating whether to scrap the idea of having a melancholy. And now what I do is I have to push up the bottom lip to match it. That's good from that side. Okay, from this side, got to join this tiny bit of lip to that, and inside the mouth, join it a little bit. And now, oh, this is really nice from this point of view. Great. I'm so glad I changed the nose and made the lips higher. I'm just going to give her a little nostril here, and then a little nostril there. And oh, I'm really happy I changed the nose. Happy. Just smoothing this bit out here. And wonderful, 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 wonderful. Great. Now, how I want the chin to be uber small, absolutely tiny. A little breath of a chin. I'm just going to make this lip a little bit more. Sometimes you get a really awkward bit of clay that just won't do what you want, and that lip is like that on that side. Right, now cheeks. Okay, so press this little bit in here, this side of the nose, this, press that down there, tilt that little mouth up a bit, give her some little dimples, little shapes here. Press that down there. Okay, bring that side of the mouth back up. Give her the satisfying little dimples that toothpicks are so perfect for. And wow, this head is really quite nearing completion. Come on, at a surprising rate of knots, because I think I only started sculpting it about 9:30. It's not even 10:30 yet. So that's really great. I'm going to just sketch in the little round parts at the side of her nose a bit. And now I think the top lip still has to come up a bit towards the nose, although it's not crucial. She's cute as it is. She might be prettier if I brought the top lip up to the nose, but I don't want to mess up what I've already done. So right. Okay, so from this side, that's how she looks. And from this side, rather pixie-ish, I think, actually. All my figures end up looking a bit like pixies. And I'm going to just take the back excess clay off. Remember, the shape of the head doesn't matter too much at this stage. I can always add. So now I'm going to sweep some oil over it. So the first little person is baked and has turned out well, and now I'm going to make the body, around which quite a close-fitting little dress is going to be glued. So the shape of the shoulders, torso, the shoulders and torso need to be pretty exact. I'm also going to make the neck, the back of the head, the ears, and then I'm going to twist some wire. I would have just cut wire, but the stuff I bought is too thin and I didn't realise, so just twist it, then cut it, glue it into the limbs, and bake the torso and neck. So I'm just looking at the photo, one of the photos of the, sorry about that, Christine Birmingham illustration. And she's such a slender little thing. I think actually it'll be easier to do the torso if I do the neck first. Just have a sip of coffee. And the way to make fresh clay, the way to make soft, fresh clay stick to already baked clay, I've discovered, is if you put a little bit of baby oil or any sort of oil on the baked clay. That helps. So now we need a neck. And you can see how worlds easier it is now that the clay is baked to make the rest of the head and neck. You still have to be careful about things, little parts that stick out like the tiny nose, because Fimo is firm, but it's not that hard. It's not like China or there's nothing like baked ceramic clay that is baked in a kiln. So now I'm just going to, as best I can, so that no joins show, attach the neck and try and get it the right thickness. The second figure is in the oven, by the way, and I forgot to look at the time, but I think I put it in approximately 5 minutes ago. So let's say to be on the safe side, half past, so at 12 o'clock I have to take it out. Neck's pretty round. I think they're a tiny bit more pointed at the front than at the back. Now, because I can't really see for some reason if this neck is any good, I'm going to have to just attach it to the torso to see. Yeah, it seems a bit too thick actually. I'm going to narrow it down a little bit. Fingers are always the best tools. If my fingers were only small enough, I would not use toothpicks at all. Hands and fingers are pretty much works of genius, whoever designed them. Their adaptability is well nigh staggering. So that actually looks a better thickness, still a tiny bit. In the picture it looks quite thick. I'll show you the picture, but on this model it doesn't seem quite right. So sometimes you just have to go with what feels right for your model, even if your source or real life tells you otherwise. You're the best judge of your own model at the end of the day, right? So there's the neck, much too long at the moment, but still I'm going to put it onto the torso and shorten it. Now, shoulders are so narrow, they're barely wider than, okay, so that's about the width, and then they should slope down, taper in a little bit, the chest bows outwards, and then I'll pinch it in for the pelvis and cut the neck there, I think, and fix it to this. I wonder if that looks okay. A bit more on the pelvis. Actually, it looks too wide to me, so I'll narrow it. That's a bit better. That looks okay. And I can always add more to the back later. No, get down. Get down. No, get down. I saw Magdalena, yeah, she's gone out now. Oh, okay. Haven't seen Joe. So now I've made the torso for this figure. Doesn't have to be perfect. And the back of her head and ears. And I've also put the back of the head on this second figure, the toddler, and made it the beginning of a torso for her. I'm not quite sure how long or wide it has to be yet, but I'm going to bake that and then add more if I need to. I've also made holes for the wire that's going to attach the legs to pass through the pelvis, and the wire that's going to attach the arms to pass through the shoulders. And I've done the same on this figure, but only in the shoulders because I haven't made the pelvis yet. And it is worth saying that because these figures have solid necks rather than wire necks, as I sometimes do on figures where their clothes cover the flesh of their necks, there's no need to make a clay neck. You need to make sure that the angle they're looking in is how you want them to be when they're finished, because of course you won't be able to bend the head after this. So I think I'm going to tilt my toddler up to give her a little supplicating aspect. And this little girl, I think just slightly to the side. So I'm just smoothing off the neck of the toddler, and I think her hair is going to cover her ears, so I haven't made any ears, but also I'm not sure of the skull shape yet, so I'm just going to bake these again for another 25 or 30 minutes, and then possibly add more to the skull, definitely a bit more to the pelvis to attach the legs, and I think this one's pretty much done. Also, I want to point out that I made a big mistake baking the hands and feet, or at least some of them, in that I forgot to make the toothpick holes big enough to extract the toothpick after these things were baked. So as you can see, I've had to break off the toothpicks in these feet, and now I don't have a hole to put the wire into, and I'm going to have to try and drill very fine holes into these, which will risk splitting the calves. And the same thing has happened with at least one of the arms. So you can see the end of the toothpick in there, so it's completely my own silly fault. And anyway, I'll get around it somehow. Now I'm just going to bake these, and then I think that's nearly the end of the sculpting and baking for these figures, which is incredible. Then we'll be on to wiring, wrapping the wire with wool, painting, wigging, and